Welcome to the From Concealment Podcast, the show for firearm enthusiasts who like to shoot, train, carry, and compete. Get ready for some shooting and sight, firearm and accessory reviews, and of course, insight on concealed carry. And now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines in the From Concealment studio, it's Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams.
Hey, Freedom Nation, this is Pete Mitchell.
And I am wearing my chest rig.
And I love how you got a verse front and center.
Heck yeah, man. Hold on. Let me see which one this is. I think mute it. Oh, yeah. This is from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord, my strength, which teacheth my hands for war and my fingers for the fight. Yes. So it is going to take miraculous teaching, as those speak in tongues who have not trained in that language. By the miraculous work of God, they just know the language. So it will have to be with certain aspects of fighting and warfare, because my training is still very limited. So I'm like, Lord, you will have to work through me. So
you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. And I love... show everyone, what do you have on your rig there? I mean, obviously we talked last week, you got your radio, and then
so got my radio, rocking my Baofeng radio, and then I've got of course I've got three mags here, and my mag pouches up here, but then I'm rocking a nice little flashlight here that hooks on nicely, which is already come in handy. I'm actually like doing stuff around the house, getting things done, and I'll notice something. I'll be like, man, that would be something in a tactical situation I would need, so better put it on here. Got myself a nice little tiny pocket knife, one that I don't mind losing. It's just a little dinky thing. Got my chem light for an emergency situation. Had an interesting conversation with, let's say with a choir member, and
is that what we're calling your rapid response team now? Choir members?
It was choir. We sang worship to the Lord. Hold on. Sorry. Micah, you got to go. I'm going to call. Yeah. Ask Hannah to help you. So he was saying that in tactical maneuvering, when you ask to change fire, he's like, Murphy's Law fully applies. You will need someone to change rate of fire or change direction of fire, and that'll be the day that the radios go down. And so he was suggesting, he's like, we used to use chem lights tied to a rock or whatever, throw it in the air, and that's the way you signal. So yeah, got some other.
So Dan's got his son walking in right in the middle of the podcast, which you got to love. I mean, that's kind of how we roll.
I'm confident that he plans it. He will not need me for any other time during the day, and he comes in for that.
Of course.
After explicit instructions not to. So we got all that, and then I've got there's a little pouch behind here where I've got extra batteries for my hearing protection, as well as I've got a little energy bar in here, which I just got a set of those terrible, I'm assuming they're terrible tasting, but they're like the all-calorie bars. They are only for survival. But we've got a nice little setup in here now. Extra set of contacts should I have a vision situation. So every little bit I'm like, okay, what can I put in here? It gets only slightly heavier every time, but readier and readier as the day goes by, for something I hope I never have to use. Shoot. I really hope I never have to.
Of course. I got my kit coming. It's 4 to 6 weeks out, but as I mentioned to you, I was like, okay, I got some money squirreled away over here. I'm going to go ahead and get some body armor.
You're getting good stuff too, by the way. I like what you're getting.
The reason why I got it is because it was a bundle package. It was a concealable vest, and then you have a tactical vest, and then you got, tactical vest with rifle plates. So I was like, I kind of like the concealable vest because I could wear that underneath my suits when I got to go certain places and people don't know you got it on. But and then, of course, like I said on one of our podcasts, you can get the badges. What badge do you want? Do you want police? Do you want EMS? And I was like, you know what? there's one that's vague enough. It says rescue. I'm like, perfect. I look like a good guy. It says rescue. What does that mean? I'm not claiming I'm anything. I'm not claiming I'm EMS. I'm not claiming I'm police. I'm not claiming anything false. But believe me, if you see me show up, I am there to rescue somebody, more than likely me, out of a situation.
I'm here to rescue myself.
That's right.
Well,
That's
hey,
right.
here's the nice thing too. That aligns quite well with Proverbs 24:11, where it says, "Rescue those who are being taken away to death, hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter." Biblical reason for carrying a gun is so that you can rescue those being led away to slaughter, man. So rescue, you actually have a biblical basis to slap that on there.
Of course.
I'm making it.
Absolutely.
I think you should. I think you got the right one.
I love it. I love
Good
it.
stuff, man. Well, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Hey, and
So
the rifle plate.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
Does the rifle plate get you up to level 4?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Nice.
So it does say to get level 4, you do have to wear the soft plate as well for the conceal.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a trade-off too. And I was kind of like, well, I don't know what the rifle plate is without the soft, the concealable armor. But in the back of my head, I'm kind of like, well, worst case scenario, I kind of got like 2 kits here, slap one on the wife, one on me, I mean, it's better than nothing, right? It's not going to be level 4 at that point, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hearing a lot of times what you get is a level 3. You put the whatever behind it and it takes it up to level 4. And that's a lot of people are doing that anyway. And it sounds like Safe Life has actually made the business into that, which is cool. And you're right. You've got multiple sets as needed if you want to distribute to the family. And it means, you have to pick one not to have.
Well,
right,
my whole thinking on it is, look, if I go down, then the rest of the family is going down. So, I mean, you have that thought. It's like, well, I don't want my kids getting shot. Well, of course you don't. No one does. But the reality is, if I go down, they have no hope because none of them know what they're doing. None of them train. None of them do anything. So, I mean, it almost sounds selfish, but it's like, yeah, but that's the only way I can ensure my family's safety is I can't go down.
I would actually say you're right. It's similar to the whole, in a, situation in a plane where the masks drop in and they say to put your mask on first, because you're no good to your child if you've passed out trying to put their mask on. Right. And so I think that's wise and good. Similar with the chest rig, man. Like I'm going to be the one standing in front of them.
Right.
And it's bad news if I get hit anyway, but I'm already blocking.
Right.
So I think you're thinking in the right direction there, man. Yeah.
But hey, so side note, Thursday we had a handgun challenge over at Evans Gun Range in Orange, I think it's the city of Orange. I don't know, Orange County for sure. And took the Glock 48, brand new Glock 48, hadn't shot it yet. I didn't really care if I was how I would do in the challenge because I haven't shot in a couple months because of the surgeries that I had. But I wanted to ensure the gun worked. I wanted to ensure I was good with the gun. I had literally Glock sights suck, so I just swapped those out and put on some real sights on it. And I wanted to make sure everything was working properly. And I got to tell you, man, I really liked shooting it. The recoil to me felt like probably like my Glock 17. And even though it's not as long as a Glock 17, it kind of threw me off. I was like, wow, man, the recoil just seems a lot less than what I was expecting. And I believe the Glock 48 is slightly longer than the Glock 19. I think they did that because of some rule in Canada. They wanted to be able to keep the Canadian market, and they needed the barrel and the slide to be slightly longer. So I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. It's something I read, probably a year ago at this point. But man, I got to tell you, I loved it. So got qualified on it.
That's awesome, man.
And we'll get it added to my CCW as soon as the sheriff's department will add it, and then I can carry that. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm hearing lots of people talk those things up. Like, it's just a good little gun, man. So,
yeah. And I mean,
not that little.
If you're in a free state, someone, I can't remember who it is, I saw it on the Glock Store's website. They make a 15 round magazine for the Glock 48. So somehow they've done, even though it's single stack, they figured out how to take the same amount of space, slightly stagger the bullets, so that way you can fit 15 in the magazine. So here in my state,
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, right. It is. Totally is. Here in my state, we can't buy standard capacity magazines. We can't buy anything that has more than 10 round holding capacity. And since it's so new, I mean, I don't believe it was even conceived of back when we had our Freedom Week. So here in California, we can't get it unless you're, of course, with the government. If you work for the government, you can get it because government needs it, but civilians don't.
Yeah. Which did you see? So first of all, two thoughts related to this. One is one of our faithful listeners. We try not to use names on here, so we'll say Leatherman. Leatherman knows who he is. Leatherman was talking about rocking that Glock 48 with the 15 round aftermarket magazine.
Oh, really?
Very, very highly of it. So thanks, Leatherman, for the recommendation. He was trying not to rub it in your face, but since we've mentioned it so many times, he's like, it's a great mag. That aftermarket mag actually does really, really well. And so, yeah, thanks, Leatherman. The other thing, talking about adding things to your conceal carry and all that kind of stuff, made me think of the California roster for the handguns. And did you see Firearms Policy Coalition is in the middle of a fight with California right now, because apparently California's trying to pass some law, maybe they already did, where in order to add a firearm to the roster, they want to be able to take 3 of them off of it. There was some wacky whatever. And I mean, everything about that's wacky. And I guess they're challenging that. They're in a fight right now. And so just made me think of that, made me want to say, guys, if there is ever a time to support Firearms Policy Coalition, now is the time. The NRA has proven itself to be a complete waste of money and time. In fact, worse than a waste. They seem to be fighting against us most of the time now. They just suck. But Firearms Policy Coalition, man, they are out there fighting with minimal money, but they're fighting the battles that NRA should have been fighting. And so, and that's one of them. So if you want to support some pro-gun organizations, find your local chapter, find your local whatever, Ohio gun policy and all that kind of stuff. But Firearms Policy Coalition, man, they're doing some good work. So check them out.
And I would even offer to say that for those of you who are in free states and you're like, yeah, well, who really cares what happens in California? You are now seeing all of our gun laws are going nationwide. So Don't think you can just abandon California like the NRA did. The NRA abandoned California and said, screw it, California's lost. They're all Democrats in there. They're going to do whatever they want. And then every other state said, oh, well, California got away with this. We're going to do it. New Jersey did it. New York's doing it, over and over again. And now basically they're trying to take all of that nationwide. I believe in Virginia, I was reading it yesterday. They no longer have private party transfers, just like California. So California, you can't go to your neighbor and go, oh, hey, I like your gun. Oh, I like your gun. Let's go ahead and trade, and you swap it. No, that would be illegal here in California. California, it has to go to an FFL. They do the background check. They hold on to your gun for 10 days because, it's California. And then you get the gun after everything's been cleared. So same thing is, like I said, is happening in Virginia. And we're going to see that stuff spreading under this Biden administration. And all I can do is I can tell you, there's a verse in the Bible that says, pray for your leaders. I'm praying that nothing happens to Biden because I do not want Harris as president. And I heard someone go, well, then we just got to make sure something happens to Harris. I go, no. I don't want Pelosi as president. Look, we are praying for Biden, that boy, somehow keeps his faculties and doesn't give up the post because the next two in line are worse than him. And that's just a scary thought.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so I remember, this is out of context, but the old Martin Luther, interesting. This is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. He had the old quote: a threat to freedom anywhere is a threat to freedom everywhere. And that certainly applies to California gun laws. For crying out loud.
Yeah.
You guys have been the testing ground, and they've just taken away rights and people. Some people just let it happen. The NRA just let it happen, whatever. And there's plenty that were fighting it, but fighting an uphill battle. And now it's being exported out. And they realized they could do it. And so the conversation I had with a friend of mine the other day got pretty concerned about, hey man, what's going to happen if they come for our guns? And I had some comforting thoughts that we probably should walk through, but I would say hypothetically in Minecraft, we should get much more comfortable with breaking illegal laws. Again, totally hypothetically and just in a fictional format, you should get really, really comfortable breaking laws. If the law is unconstitutional, break it and get comfortable breaking it. So keeping all that in mind,
you got to pay the consequence though. I mean, that's the thing. You have to be prepared that there are consequences, and it doesn't matter that it's illegal. They will absolutely drain every dime you got in court. You'll end up with a public defender who doesn't give a rip about you, and you're going to go to jail. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, well,
this is where the magic of not getting caught is so important. I mean, it really does get kind of important here that, because here's the thing. If they take our guns, it's over. Historically, that has been the last line of defense. Us just having them is what keeps the really, really bad things from happening. So at all costs, don't give them up. I would rather.
Here's the thing. They can't really take the guns though. Like there's like something like 600 million guns in the United States, most of which they have no idea who owns them and where they're at because of private party transfers, right? Like you buy a gun from a dealer, you fill out the form. The store holds on to that form. They do not give it to the ATF. Then if that store closes, goes bankrupt, whatever, they have to take all of their books and then give it to the ATF. If a gun is found at a crime scene, then whoever department they call the ATF, here's a serial number. They call the manufacturer. Let's say they call Beretta, whatever. Beretta says, okay, well, that serial number was sent to this store over here. Then they call that store, and then that store's got to tell them, okay, here's who we sold it to originally. That doesn't mean that's who still owns it. Then they got to go talk to that person. Who did they sell it to? Most of the time, they're not going to remember. I mean, most of the time, it is like so far down the line, no one knows where. All they can tell is that initial point of sale. So states like California said, hey, let's just take away private party transfers. Let's just make everything on our record. And by the way, California is different in the sense that, yeah, they fill out the form, but California also logs it. That's why California, the state of California, knows what you own since they started doing that, which theoretically it's not that recent. It is pretty recent, but there's plenty of guns from before that where they don't know where they are or anything like that. And that's the problem with them being able to take away guns in the United States. They don't know where most of the 600 million are. But going forward, why do you think they want to know where all of them are?
Exactly right. Well, and this is why I brought up be comforted in not turning in your guns, because what they want is a voluntary, some kind of voluntary situation where they buy back or whatever, and they use the threat of force to get you to turn it back in. But as you mentioned, it's going to be really hard for them to enforce this. And I even brought it up, like, first of all, we're talking about millions of guns, right? And so, like, let's say it's even bought recently. And this is the situation with a friend of mine, bought his gun online, had it shipped to a dealer, that whole thing. I'm like, first of all, they're going to pull whatever, 10,000 customers, however many thousand customers that, this company has. And they're going to probably first cross-reference that with people they're actually looking for. And I'm like, they're not looking for you, man. They just don't care about you. But then even if they did, now they've got to go to the local gun store where the FFL transfer happened. And I'm like, if it's getting real hairy, hopefully some of these gun stores are having fire sales, and they're like, let's just freaking burn this stuff and get the heck out of Dodge. Now, I'm not confident that very many of them are going to do that. But even if they do, or even if they don't, now you've got to have that ATF agent or FBI agent or whoever is going to have to filter through all of those, cross-reference the people they're already looking at. And then it might not even be that that's the person who has the gun, and at the end of it, like, it is a trail of work that's going to take time, man hours, resources that are finite. And we're talking about, I don't know how many federal agents there are that are going to be looking for guns, but it's not nearly as many as there are people and guns. And so, like, it's going to take, like, they're just not going to be able to get to you. And so whatever you do, don't voluntarily turn in a gun because you're scared they're going to come for you. They're probably never going to get to you.
See, what I would also recommend is if you're in a situation where it's like you've got to turn in, let's say, your AR, then my recommendation is you turn in the serial portion of the AR. You literally take everything off that sucker. You take off the upper, you take off the stock, you take off the handle, the trigger. You take everything out of it and you turn over the serial the serial portion of it, the registered portion of it. That's what you turn over.
Yep.
I mean,
I fully agree. And I would actually say I would do that with any other gun they make you turn in. Take it apart. Keep everything you can from that. Turn in just the frame. Legally, the frame is the only thing that is considered a gun.
Now here's where, I mean, again, we're not lawyers. We're not advising you to do anything. You need to check with your own legal department, your priest, your doctor, the guy down the street. Check with someone else other than these two yahoos. And we're just talking about, building Legos in Minecraft. I mean, that's all we're doing over here. But like, I know in a lot of states, and certainly I was watching one of my reality shows, in Alaska, and these guys were baiting the deer and shooting them that way, which is illegal. And so part of their punishment is they take away the rifle as it's configured. And so this guy had just a gorgeous scope on it. I mean, just you could tell it was $800-900, maybe $1,200 just for that piece alone. They took everything, right? As it's configured, that's how they take it. So if they show up at your house and you go, oh, wait a second, I got to go take everything off of it, they're gonna be like, no, we're taking all of it. So you need to know if they're coming, then you have to have it prepared. Like, if they're coming for you, you got to have it prepared.
Yeah. Well, and
I'm not even saying that's going to work. I'm just saying that's what I would attempt.
And that's where the value for those of us who still can, getting 80% lower is a great idea. And so whatever thing you have registered isn't even on your gun and doesn't need to be. And I would say if you are going to get an 80% lower, go and take out some cash, drive a town away, go to a Walgreens and buy yourself a Visa gift card, right? And then use Tor browser, go to 80percentarms.com, buy the thing, have it shipped to a relative that doesn't care, or to a PO box or a UPS box that you take out with cash. And then you go and pick the thing up, to do whatever you can to have that thing not very traced to you. Because they are starting to look a little bit at that, it seems.
Sure.
So yeah, but if you got the 80% lower on there, man, you can turn in the serialized thing and say, oh, that sucks. See you later, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that is the magic right there. Oh, so I had a fun experience. I was feeding the chickens, and I appendix carry, right? Got myself a really nice little holster. I got a good holster, right? And well, let's just say, like, during the holidays, I have not eaten as healthy as I normally would. And then I don't get to do my outside stuff as much. Like I would stay reasonably in shape by like, I'm in the garage, I'm chopping down trees. Like it's not exactly like working out, but like I'm active. Well, now it's like, it's cold here. You can't do anything. And so I leaned over while I was feeding the chickens, and my appendix carry jammed me in the gut pretty good. And I was like, oh my, I am going to have to lose some weight if I'm going to continue to appendix carry. So anyway, that's why I'm wearing this chest rig and all the weight on it I can. I'm doing lunges. I'm doing like chin ups. I'm like, I've got to do something to get myself into a little bit better shape. So I'm, I
was actually thinking of that. I was like, when my kit comes in, by that point, I should be able, 4 to 6 weeks away. I should be back at the gym. I'll have had enough time off from the last surgery. And I'm like, when it comes to back day and doing pull-ups and everything like that, kind of makes sense to almost do the full gear, complete with AR slung over, and just start training like that,
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Well, and just getting used to having it on, getting used to like functioning with all of your kit on is got to be a good idea. So yeah, man. So with all this in mind, are you looking at some of the pictures and video from DC?
I tell you, how they got 25,000 troops in DC that quick. When does everyone remember, or did they all forget that when Trump was inaugurated, they had riots all over DC, cars burning, everything, and they pretend like this is somehow like so much worse than that just because they had a bunch of people walk through the red ropes where they work?
Well, and just look a few months ago at the rioting in DC and how bad that was. And no, I'm not approving of the people storming the Capitol. Like, trust me, this is not me supporting that or whatever. But if we're going to compare that to all this other stuff, it's pretty benign. Still,
I honestly believe, literally, I think the reason why the Capitol got stormed is because, they don't do anything to protesters. I mean, we've seen that all last year. Let's do a bail fund. Nothing happened to protesters. Yeah. So what does it matter? We're not even going to destroy anything. Maybe a couple of broken windows. I mean, that's like they were back at work hours later screwing over the American people. Like that's like nothing changed for Congress.
They're dedicated to that. Dedicated.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, I'm telling you, if they had stopped all these riots over the last year, I don't think they would have had this problem. But they set the precedence that, we support rioters. We support the right to free speech. These are mostly peaceful protests, as we see buildings literally burning behind the reporter. I mean, they were thinking nothing bad's going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. It's, Well, I tell you what, man, the video and picture of DC right now is absolutely looks like something from a dystopian novel. They're putting up walls, like these 12-foot walls. They've got all these military checkpoints. It's it is disturbing to see. I will just say now, some of it you get a picture of some of these National Guardsmen, and I'm confident that most of them train less than you and I do. And I don't consider myself to be training very much, but and actually, if you talk to some like active duty guys, they're like, you don't have to worry about the National Guard. Like, have you seen the meme where it's like, oh no, they're calling the National Guard, and then it says National Guard, and it's an AR mag, or an M4 mag, but the rounds are pushed down into it straight. So that is and of course, usually, like they'll tell you, like usually they don't even have ammunition.
Right.
If they do, it's maybe a mag's worth. And so, like, I mean, I'm not advocating this, please. I'm not at all, like, not even joking about this. But, like, if somebody wanted to take the Capitol, we're not talking about operators with high-end equipment. We're talking about weekend warriors who we're just trying to help pay for college, right? These are not people you need to worry about as far as military. I recognize I mean, it's still people there, right? But
my mother-in-law was like, "Oh man, did you see all those pictures and how they're making them sleep on the ground?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" The National Guardsmen who had to go to Iraq or Afghanistan, okay, they had it rough. You sleeping on the ground in DC, that ain't so bad.
Yeah.
It's like I'll take that every day of the week over sending me to Afghanistan.
Yeah. I've got relatives that are over there right now. Talking to them actually just today. They're in real situations. Like, sleeping on a concrete floor is the least of. I would say they should be happy. Like, praise the Lord.
They probably are. Relatively. They're probably like, oh, dude, no, I'll take this deployment over an Afghan deployment where people are shooting at me every day of the week.
Yeah. Oh man. So, but in the realm of things being a little dystopian, I was pointing out to somebody, like, this whole Parler shutdown thing is a concern. I mean, I know we've got all that's happening on Facebook and everything else. I don't know. We're pretty libertarian in our views. We're like, hey, private companies should be able to do what they want to do. Fully agree on that. It is strange to me, and it's worth pointing out, like Amazon, which was running the hosting or had the hosting for Parler and some of these other sites that are getting shut down, Amazon gets government subsidy. Like, they're making a whole lot of money. They also have government subsidies. And so just when I consider the fact that we've got all these various things going on, we have troops in DC, some really shady election stuff. And now when there's been organizations trying to speak out against it, that corporations that do get government funding are silencing the response. And so worth just pointing out, like, this is not just, this whole dystopian thing we're looking at is a little serious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the other thing too, is that by putting the attention on Parler, it's as if nothing bad was happening on Facebook, which is complete crap. Like, you want to know where people are organizing? It's on Facebook. It's not on Parler.
Yeah.
There's not enough people on Parler. They were all on Facebook. So why didn't Apple and Google kick Facebook off and say, you're not doing enough? Because that's where everyone's, because that wasn't really what it was all about. So I was talking with a buddy at a church yesterday, and he's like, look, this is how you kill the First Amendment. You as the government don't actually do it. You get all the private companies to do it for you. Now it's like, well, we didn't do it. They're a private company. They can do whatever they want. And then you're able to then figure out, okay, now how are we going to go after the Second Amendment? Well, we've already seen them go after banking and basically telling credit cards and debit cards, you're not allowed to accept, you're not allowed to transact payments for gun companies or anything gun related. That's how they're going to go after the Second Amendment. They're going to decrease your ability to be able to purchase, which ironically, because of our conversation last week, I bought that book you were talking about and started listening to it on Audible on Bitcoin. And yesterday I watched a great documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. I recommend it to everyone, called Cryptopia. I don't remember the full title, but it's Cryptopia. It's like Bitcoin, blockchain, and the future of the internet. I think that's what the full title is.
It's a good one.
Great documentary out of Australia. Really gives you an up-to-date, hey, here's what blockchain's all about. Here's what Bitcoin's all about. Here's where, it's going right now as of 2020. Really fantastic. But I'm like, okay, so if they do take away credit card payments, if you will, or being able to pay with your debit card, credit card, your bank account, whatever, for ammunition, guns, whatever, then we're really going to see the Bitcoins, the cryptocurrencies of the world take off. And I think we're going to find that be a staple of how you be able to buy stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's so first of all, you're exactly right. And I know there's another gun company I was following very briefly, that Wells Fargo, they were doing their banking through Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo, just without warning, closed their accounts and said, we don't want to do business with you anymore. And so I think you're right. One thing I would point out, I am careful not to use the language of private company for these.
Right.
My company is a private company. Your company is a private company.
These are public companies.
We're talking about publicly traded corporations that get all of the benefits that come with that. Government protections, in many cases, government subsidies. They got PPC loans, right? These are government-backed companies. And so you're exactly right. Their strategy is, we're going to let these companies do it, so it's not us doing it. But man, we can't pretend like they're not in bed together and that our tax dollars aren't supporting these companies. So, but I'm with you. I'm totally with you on all that they're doing there. And it is a concern, but I also with you 100% on the whole. I think the cryptocurrencies are going to become critical. And so that's been some of the conversations that we're having. I'm talking to a lot of people, even people in finance, if they're paying any attention, the question is, how do I plan for the future? And I've had a couple of people say, do I buy gold? Do I buy silver? And my thought is like, well, I mean, maybe, but you can't exactly jump on and buy things off of Amazon or buy whatever with blocks of gold. Like you need a means of exchange that functions digitally. And I would say that getting some Litecoin, getting some Bitcoin, whatever else is probably worthwhile. I'm really interested to see what happens. I mean, even honestly, tomorrow, what happens to Bitcoin tomorrow? Just the next day, like whatever, Wednesday, whenever, like really wild stuff can happen within minutes. And so, exciting, little disconcerting in some places, but exciting. If you got some money in Bitcoin, praise God for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I was watching that documentary, I thought this one guy, he had a really interesting point. He goes, first of all, and he runs a, for a lack of term, it's like a crypto vault company, where people can store their crypto coin and not have to worry about it being stolen. Because, in fact, they went into a big part of the documentary was, how do they keep it safe? Well, you have to have these private keys in order to access it. So how do you keep the private keys safe? Well, they're stored on a server that is not in any way connected to the internet, has never been online ever, will never be online ever. And that's literally in a bunker, in a nuclear hardened bunker in like the middle of this mountain. And it's like this massive security vault company that stores a lot of data that way. Well, they store the private keys there for this particular company. And that's the way that they're able to basically, keep people from being able to steal your crypto coin. But he was really, I thought some of the things that he said was very interesting, because he was like, well, first of all, don't put anything in crypto that you can't lose. Because, I mean, he was like, look, there's so much volatility here. You could easily lose everything put inside of crypto, which is 100% true. And he goes, but here's the thing. Let's say you put 1% of your net worth in crypto. He goes, if you lose 1%, is it going to destroy you? For the average person, it's not going to destroy him. But give us a bunch of years, 7 to 10 years. He goes, I'm willing to bet that 1% is going to be worth a lot more. And I was just like, that's actually a brilliant way to look at it. Don't put everything you got into crypto. And now, because like in watching the documentary, I was looking at, okay, because the problem with crypto, why it was originally created was to be an e-cash system, a way that people could buy and sell stuff online. So digital version of cash. And everyone's been trying to break this code, trying to figure out how do we do this. The problem with crypto is because it's not tied to anything. And there's a specific reason for that. Anytime it's tied to something, it's subject to manipulation, right? If it's done by the US government, the Fed. I mean, look at our own dollar. We've seen it plummet because of manipulation. The value of the dollar plummet because of manipulation. Everything, gold, you can't really tie it to gold, because the way that that it worked before when the US was on the gold standard is you could literally turn in your $1 bill and get $1 worth of silver. Like you could turn it in to actually collect that. So you had to have the hard currency. So there's kind of no way you could tie it to gold, because just because it's tied to gold doesn't mean it's backed by gold. There's a difference in that, right? I mean, there's a world of difference between being backed by something and tied to something. So why would you tie it to something that it doesn't even make any sense? So if someone can figure this out, how do we add stability to it? So like a Bitcoin today, let me see what it's worth right now. Have you looked at it today?
I have not today. Now I'm interested.
Bitcoin today is worth $35,703.98. I mean,
yep.
Just a couple of days ago, like last Sunday, not yesterday Sunday, but a week before, so 8 days ago, it was worth $40,000. Right? I mean, that's a $5,000 drop. That's a huge amount of volatility. And I mean, that's the problem with being able to use it as for what it was originally designed for, which was a way to buy and sell goods over the internet. And the people who benefit the most from this transaction are people who, like, for instance, they come to the United States from somewhere in South America to work, to make a better living. And then what do? They turn around and they send money back home. The problem is you send money back home, look at all the people who got to get involved in that, and they charge a fee. So it's going to charge you, it's a lot of money to be able to send money. But if you could just do it direct, if you could just send your cryptocurrency peer-to-peer, send it to your cousin in, Guatemala, no problem. Mm-hmm. That's where the strength of cryptocurrency really was designed for. But I mean, until someone can figure out how do we make it stable, I think it's going to be hard pressed to be that kind of a currency. Otherwise, I mean, it's literally backed by nothing. It's tied to nothing. That's the biggest problem that I see with it.
So my thought, though, is that is happening because it's being treated like an investment strategy, not as a cash, right? I mean, so for a long time, we were exchanging with it. It gained some value, even a significant amount of value in some cases, and it was still being used to buy and sell stuff. I mean, sometimes for nefarious purpose, sometimes just people bought pizza, right? And so it was handy, but now people are like, oh man, I'm really interested in this. I'll invest money. Well, they're not actually operating as, they're using some kind of a wallet. They're buying a piece of it. And I mean, it's a stock market to them. And so I'm like, well, now we're not actually, like, none of the people who are quote unquote investing in it are actually using it as a means of exchange. They're seeing it as an investment. And so I'm like, man, well, of course it's not going to be stable like this. Of course it's going to be, hopping all over the place. And so I'm with you. I think, though, that the issue behind that is that people still aren't using it for what it's meant for. And if we would, and that's why I'm thinking some of these, tertiary systems like Litecoin or whatever might have more promise if we just use them for what they're for. Anyway, that's of interest to me. But you're exactly right.
It's kind of hard.
Here's not been cracked fully on this.
The reason why it hasn't been cracked fully and people can't use it for what it was originally intended is there's still this huge barrier to getting in and using it. So I got I use several different apps for crypto, and one of the ones that I've used in the past is Coinbase. And interestingly enough, Coinbase is coming out with a debit card that's tied to your crypto that you can use anywhere you want. So you use it like a regular debit card. Now, that I think defeats part of the purpose, right? So part of the purpose is there's this one, I believe it was a coffee shop, and I don't remember what country it was in. But he was like, forget the merchant account. I'm not doing this merchant account. We only sell using crypto, Bitcoin specifically. So, and they've been doing this for years. You want to go in and buy a coffee, you got to buy it with Bitcoin. And so Part of the problem is people who buy Bitcoin Cash, which is a different coin than Bitcoin. And he's like, no, that's not what we accept. We don't accept Bitcoin Cash. So people don't really understand, but you have to pay a fee, right, to buy the Bitcoin. And why it's good for merchants is, first of all, they get the money. Now they know they got the money. Whereas you and I both run companies. We have merchant accounts. And you can get what's called a chargeback. Depending on your merchant account, can be anywhere up to 180 days with some merchant accounts. So let's say you sell something and someone then complains to their credit card company, I didn't get what I was promised, or they just fraudulently lie, which happens to me all the time. That's usually the one I get. I don't know who this is or whatever. I'm like, dude, I just talked to you 5 minutes ago. Why don't you call me and tell me you wanted your money back? Because that's how you actually lose your merchant account, is if you have more than 1% in complaints, they take it away. So with Bitcoin, merchants are protected. Plus, they don't have to pay the 3% on a credit card purchase. Like, that's what we do. Like, I charge your credit card. They're going to suck away from that money. Let's say I charge you $100. $3 of it is going back to all the other people, the merchant account, and then on down the line that they decide to pay out. So I don't actually get all of the money. With Bitcoin, you're going to get it all. Like, you get it all minus transaction fee, which is usually like 20 to 30 cents, depending on the size of the transaction. Like, I did a transaction not that long ago. It was like, I don't know, $535, and it was like $1, right? $1 is a big difference than what I'd normally be paying. If I were a merchant, I'd be paying 3% of $500, which is, what is that, $15? I mean, it's a huge difference. So there's, but the problem is we have to make it easy for people to accept and easy for people to actually get that currency. Like, if I'm in America and I want to get some British pounds, I got to go someplace, exchange it, and it's going to cost me money to get the British pounds so that I could then use for whoever was accepting British pounds. So somebody's got to figure out an easier way, and preferably a cheaper way, to buy crypto.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to take someone who has the balls to just say, you know what, we're going to be like, you know, the flat 2% guys. You know, it's just going to cost you 2% to buy from us. And now you can get all your crypto. I think if somebody were to make a web building platform, much like we have both used ClickFunnels in the past, where they automatically integrate with Stripe, which is a really popular merchant account system, and just said, hey, you know, we automatically integrate with Coinbase, or, you know, figure out your own version of Coinbase and make it easy for business owners to accept crypto. That's going to make people want to be in crypto more, and then make it easy for people to get in it. Now you've got it as a viable cash to cash system.
Yep. And I think the step to get there is we're getting closer to. We're not there yet, but we're moving in that direction. And I think it just takes somebody doing it. So anyway, guns. the beauty in all of this is that
maybe that's
Bitcoin
it. It's a coin based by guns. Coins backed by guns. It's the value of, you know, the Glock. There you go.
But you know what? That is not too far from what Bitcoin already is. I mean, so the joke when somebody was like, somebody explained Bitcoin to me, and it was like, well, if you could just run your car and leaving it idle would allow it to do Sudokus that you could exchange for heroin. That's kind of how Bitcoin works. And so not too far off, except with guns. And that's what I'll encourage people. I mean, right now, unfortunately, or I shouldn't say right now, Bitcoin's used for plenty of good things, but we also know it was used for a lot of bad things, because you can't really exactly trace who is doing what with it.
Actually, that's not true. It's actually very easy to trace. Completely easy to trace. It is not anonymous at all. Like, not even remotely anonymous.
So are you talking about pure Bitcoin, or when somebody
I'm talking about pure Bitcoin? You can totally, completely trace that.
You mean like, so if I log in,
The whole point of the blockchain is you literally see who bought what. Well, you don't know what they bought, but who transferred money from who to whom, and then who they transferred it to. Like, there's actually whole companies that have business models where it's like, oh, you need us to trace? Oh, we can trace that for you. I mean, and then you got the United States who basically said you can't buy anything anonymously. So that's why Coinbase has your driver's license and everything else. It's all tied to you. Like, there isn't a way to anonymously buy Bitcoin. That's the problem.
That's unless you are running. So this is technically what Bitcoin is supposed to be. So we're still talking about a third party system that we're buying it through. And again, gets back to our earlier issue. But if I have my digital code that is all I have and is not really associated with my name, that's why people were buying heroin with it 10 years ago. Well,
they were buying heroin with it because it was the only way that, like, you can't get a merchant account and sell heroin, but you can accept Bitcoin because it's peer-to-peer. That was the reason. It wasn't because it was anonymous. Like, I could be anonymous on the receiving end, but you can't be anonymous on the sending end in the United States because there's no way to get your cash into Bitcoin without it being traced to you. That's the problem.
Again, though, that's if you're putting the cash into Bitcoin. If you are mining or whatever, and you are running, like, the game is a little bit different there.
Sure.
And again, but practically, this is where the issue comes down to. Practically, hardly anybody's doing that right now, right? Practically, it's I've got to put my money into it, and now I'm being tracked.
Right.
Before, though, there was a little bit of fun wildness there, which is what gets me kind of interested in what might happen to the black market in a good way if we had some kind of a future way we could do this a little bit easier. It's not looking good right now, but it could be pretty cool if we would. Can you imagine if you and I just had, like, nothing associated with our name, nothing associated with anything? We jumped on Tor browser or whatever, and we were able to send information that was totally unconnected to our name.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you can't, like, it doesn't even matter if they could trace it to you. Like, it is entirely possible. I've done this. You can physically print on paper your Bitcoin wallet. Okay. Which has your private key, everything. Now, if I have you send that money, it doesn't matter if you know I got it. You got to physically find my printed wallet. If I am able to figure out how I can physically hide a printed wallet without it being destroyed out in the elements, rained on, whatever, then it doesn't even matter if you know I got the money. You have no way of getting to it. Like, that's kind of there are things that you can do to protect your, like, you can't get to it. You're like, okay, you came in, you searched my house. It wasn't in my house. Where is it? But then what happens if wherever I had it stored goes up in flames? Or, I mean, there's dangers, right? But I'm just saying
you're exactly right, though. And I mean, that's the danger, is I could also hide it from myself.
Right.
and then not be able to access it,
There's a guy, I read an article last week. But he's got 200. There's a guy who's got 235 million in Bitcoin that he's only got 2 password guesses left before it's gone forever because he forgot his password to get into his wallet from years ago, right? Back when Bitcoin was probably like, literally pennies. So it's worth 235 million, but he's only got 2 guesses left and can't get to his money. So, like, you hear all those stories and it's like, okay, that's a downside to it, right? I could physically lose it. So have multiple wallets. I think that's another thing.
That 2.5 million was probably like $50 that he put into it.
Right. Yeah.
And he probably didn't care then, right? It was like, yeah, whatever. And now he's like, oh crap. Yeah. I knew a guy, like, 3 years ago, who he had put money in Bitcoin to buy a fake ID.
Oh no.
And he realized that, like, oh man, crap, I can use this money. Of course, he gets out right as it was bumping up. So he got like $500 out of it. If he just held on till now, he'd probably had $3 or $4 grand in there. Anyway, we got to wrap up, but check out learms.net. We just added new classes. Get on there, check it out. Anything else, Pete, before we head out of here?
No.
All right. Well, hey, peace out, everybody. Stay strapped or get clapped, and we'll see what happens on Wednesday. Things might get a little spicy.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the From Concealment Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams. Be sure to tune in next week for more gun talk. Also, check out the From Concealment website for more shooting-related goodness at FromConcealment.com.